Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for Frisco Forward, a virtual Shawnee Trail Cowboy Day production. I've got Donna Schmittler, the president of the Heritage Association of Frisco, joining me this morning to tell us more about the Heritage Association and our upcoming event.
Good morning. Welcome to Shawnee Cowboy Trail Day 2020. My name is Donna Schmittler, and on behalf of the Heritage Association of Frisco, I would love to invite you to this virtual event. We've been doing Shawnee Trail Cowboy Day for more than a decade, but this year with the pandemic, we've had to change our plans a little bit. We want you to be assured, though, that we didn't forget about celebrating this wonderful road, which we now know as Preston Road. The Shawnee Trail brought many people from the east to the west to start a new life, and there were lots and lots of cattle and longhorns going on the Shawnee Trail. So that's how we decided to celebrate, because Frisco Heritage Association likes to preserve and educate and share Frisco's rich history. And we also want to leave a legacy for those. While the future is every day, we'd also like to leave a legacy for those who came before us. Frisco was started in 1902. It was comprised of many small communities that kind of were absorbed when Frisco got the railroad. And we had water, so we were able to make the steam engines work. So today, we are going to show you some of the things about the beautiful Heritage Center that we have here, the different homes that some of them were originally in Frisco and some were moved here from Lebanon, the blacksmith shop, and how things were done in years past. And we have an exciting program for you, and we're looking forward to sharing it with you.
So Donna, even though we're virtual this year, next year we plan to be back in person, barring any pandemics, right?
Yes, we definitely do. The last Saturday of September, which is September 25th in 2021, we'd love to have you all here on the grounds to do stagecoach rides and armadillo races and pony rides and sample different kinds of food. We've had living longhorns here. We've had the chuck wagon. And a couple of years ago, we added the mechanical bull, which has really been a lot of fun. People have really enjoyed that.
They have. I've stayed away from that one. So you can enjoy that in 2021. I'll be probably on the outside of that one. But we also wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsors. This year, of course, we've got the City of Frisco, who's been so super supportive of this event and our events in the past. And then in 2019, our last in-person event, we had great sponsors such as Texas Health, CoServe, FC Dallas, Grande Communications, Legacy Plumbing, Texas Republic Bank, and the Art of Problem Solving Academy. And so we're hoping that all of you come back in 2021 when we're back and join us again in putting on this fantastic event.
Yes, we're very grateful to our sponsors, and we hope that people support them the way they've supported us.
Absolutely. So I think we should get to it. Let's get to Frisco Forward, a virtual Shawnee Trail Cowboy Day production.
Well, howdy. Welcome to Lebanon. I don't believe I've seen you around these parts before. My name's Chris. My family and I came here on the Shawnee Trail a little over a year ago. This place is growing fast. We've got almost 500 residents now. Can you believe that? Some of them have been here since before the Civil War. You know what? Hey, you don't look like you're from around these parts, are you? No? Well, hey, listen, I'm heading over to the Quinsonberry grocery store to pick up some milk for Miss Kosher and her daughters. And just between you and me, I'm going to pick me up one of them strawberry soda pops. Nothing better than a cold drink on a hot day. Why don't you come with me? Come on, I'll show you the way. Did you do that? What in tarnation? What is this, some kind of armadillo or something? Who is this Wilson fella? What the heck is going on here?
Sir, are you all right?
Take cover. I'll protect you from this bandit.
I'm not a bandit.
Then why are you wearing that mask?
For protection.
Protection? From dust?
No, sir. No, sir. Just COVID-19.
Is that Latin for outlaw? We had one of those in town. Billy Fox. Adele Rogers Clark said he was meaner than a rattlesnake.
Never mind. Just wear your mask when you're out and about in Frisco.
Frisco? Where's my Lebanon? How did I get to this Frisco? What is a Frisco?
Frisco is the fastest growing city in America. Over 200,000 people live here.
200,000? That's 100 times bigger than the biggest cattle drive I've ever been on. What's they all stampede?
That's what we call traffic jam.
A what? Oh, it doesn't matter. How did I get here? I was talking to my new friend here when this here armadillo named Wilson hit me in the head.
It's a football.
A what? Where did it come from?
Maybe the star.
This did not come from the stars.
Not the stars, the star. The Ford Center at the Star. It's the home of the Dallas Cowboy NFL football team.
A team? You mean like a group of cowboys chasing possums or armadillos to eat? Well, this thing seems a mite tough to be chewing on. It doesn't matter. Where's my Lebanon? Oh, never mind. I'll find it myself. Come on.
Donna, we just heard Cowboy Chris get a quick lesson in Frisco now and then. When we first meet Chris, he's heading to get a strawberry soda pop from Quisenberry's, a store in Lebanon. In his time, the lay of the land looked very different from what we know now. So we use the Dallas North Tollway as our major thoroughfare. But in Lebanon, they would have used different roads to get around the small towns and around Lebanon, right?
Absolutely. They would have used Main Street as one of their main roads. But we know it today as Preston Road. Preston Road took a turn to the east at the south end of Lebanon. And you can see that today. It kind of veered off about where La Hacienda Ranch Restaurant is and went up kind of what we call Ohio today. You can see by looking at today's maps the little triangle area that was the town of Lebanon. That it's kind of on the north end is Lebanon Road, which is early GPS. Many roads were named according to the town they went to. So when they came through and straightened Preston Road and made it very straight north and south, Main Street in Lebanon became Preston Road, or SH 289.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the early folks in Lebanon, they would have had to travel to Allen to take the train to go to Dallas or McKinney. So it was about an 8-mile trip to get to the train station that they would, take by horse or horse and carriage or even bicycle.
And I'm guessing you weren't heading up to Allen to do some outlet shopping like we do today.
No. They were heading to Allen because that's where the closest train station was at that time.
Gotcha.
Before Frisco was built.
So when Cowboy Chris meets his stranger, has his encounter with who he thinks is a bandit, the bandit tells him that Frisco is now one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. And we see a lot of growth now, but Frisco was growing pretty rapidly back then too. Is that right?
When the town lots were sold in February of 1902, they were grabbed up because businessmen knew that where the train came, that's where the business was going to be. So families literally moved to their homes, picked up their homes and put them on logs and use tractors or oxen to move them. It would be about 3 miles north from Lebanon. And we also have verified that homes moved here from the town of Fonsine and from the town of Arudia. So the town grew overnight, literally overnight. It sprung up, and it's been growing ever since. And when you read the historic articles, you always see Frisco talking about growth. When the people who lived through the time when it was a sleepy country, rural town, they don't see the growth, but it's always been planned for. The town leaders have always known that Preston Road was going to expand and be a major road. And then Highway 121 also, was a major east-west artery, Highway 380, and then the Dallas North Tollway. So you have all of these major roadways that kind of converge in Frisco. There was no doubt that Frisco was going to grow. But it really sees its major growth in the late 20th century, and it has continued since then.
Absolutely. And we're loving it. Progress in motion, right?
Progress in motion.
So in this last clip, we also meet Wilson, which is a football that Cowboy Chris mistaken for a armadillo. And the bandit, or our stranger, tells him that it probably came from the star. So this is kind of something I really wanted to chat about, because we also know Frisco now is Sports City, USA, but there were plenty of sports that people would have played back then. Can you give us an idea of a few?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Frisco, once Frisco became a town, almost immediately, you had your football team, your school sports, but Frisco very early on had a baseball team. Long before the Rough Riders, Frisco had a professional baseball team. I think it was probably back in the 30s. I'd have to do some more research on that, but it was really interesting to know that they had teams like that. We had a football player who played for, I think, the Kansas City Chiefs, who came from our lost town of Caney Spur, which is one of the 6 towns that we call that are the lost towns of Frisco. Frisco used to be, this small little town that spanned Main Street from about North-South County Road, although it was called Bethel Road originally, to just the other side of the tracks. And then, of course, you had the outlying farms. But as Frisco prepared for growth, they expanded the area, the footprint that they intended to take into the town. And that included 6 towns that had their own town centers, their own churches, their own grocery stores, and their own post offices. And there was a lot of other smaller communities, but when we looked at it, we looked at the communities that had post offices. And Caney Spur and Bates fell on the Denton County side of Frisco. And then again, Lebanon and Fonsine, Arudia, and then north of us, Rock Hill.
Okay.
And those were all major towns at their time in space in history that became part of the footprint of Frisco. It became Frisco City for another minute because it was a Frisco city because the Frisco Railroad built it. And finally the people said, well, let's just call it Frisco. So literally by May of 1902, the name was officially Frisco.
Awesome. Great facts about early Frisco now and then. And we're going to head back into our story to help Cowboy Chris make it back home to Lebanon.
Nanny, you'll never guess what this strange-looking bandit told me. Well, who are you? Where's Nanny? Oh no. What does Nanny got stuck in this Frisco too? Who are you?
This is Nanny's house, but she no longer lives here. It's part of the Frisco Heritage Village. We're docents. We work for the museum behind the village. We tell people about the history of Frisco in Lebanon.
But I'm not history. I'm right here.
Calm down, just sit down. We'll all figure this out together. Now, I assume you remember the history of Frisco and Lebanon? Well, those towns are gone. They were lost towns. Fonsine, Rudia, Rock Hill, Caney, they all went away when Frisco had the train to come through.
When the train came through, the people in Lebanon wanted to move closer to the train. Some of them actually picked up their houses and rolled them on logs all the way to Frisco and moved here.
But if you came here to talk about Nay Crozier, I bet you knew her daughters, didn't you? She had 3 girls, sent them all to college, which was just unheard of in that day. And this house she built, well, the logs came from Jefferson, Texas. Do you remember Jefferson? Yeah, East Texas. Well, the logs came over here, and she had this whole house built. And there is one thing that's really amazing in this house. It's the 7th banister. It's upside down. And do you know why? That kept the ghost upstairs from out of upstairs so they couldn't go up when we were sleeping. It was a wonderful story. And she sent all 3 of those girls to college. But she also had to break the soil. She had to plant crops. She was such a strong-willed woman. She was a good businesswoman, and she worked the fields too, took care of the kids, and arranged to build this house.
So this is all history. So that means I'm history. Wow. And so is Lebanon, except for what's left in this heritage village. What if we can't ever get home? What are we going to do?
Well, let's help you. Why don't you go to the blacksmith?
That's a good idea. I'll go talk to the blacksmith. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate the help. Thank you very much. Come on, we're going to the blacksmith. Come on, Wilson.
Well, we just saw the cowboy enter the Crozier house in a bit of a tizzy, looking for help to get back to his old Frisco, or as we know it, once being called Lebanon. So Linda, I'm going to pull you back into the conversation without your docent here on and chat with you about what we would have seen had we been in that household in old school Frisco. So if we had walked into the house, what could we expect the family to be doing at that time?
Well, the family really had to concentrate on taking care of food and shelter and clothing. And so you might have seen them working out in the garden, trying to grow some plants or harvest the plants or hoe the weeds out of the garden. You might have seen them spinning. You might have seen them sewing. And these were things that you could do at night. Sometimes they didn't have lights, so they might have been making candles and, stuffing hair in a mattress or feathers in a mattress or something like that. They had so many things to do. They had no leisure time at all.
Oh, wow. It's kind of like what we're going through right now, being stuck in the house during the pandemic. So tell me a little bit about the family dynamic back then, because now we know, as kids hit age 18, they go off to school, off to college, and, they may see their parents whenever they need their laundry done or something to that effect. But what would the family dynamic look like back then?
Back in that time period, many families were larger because they needed those children to help work, to help them survive on the farms. And so they would be out working the land. I know Nanny Crozier cultivated that land from raw land. So she dug it up for the first time there. And so they would be working very hard to make the land productive. And then they would be taking care of building structures for their houses, for their barns, for any type of shelter for their animals. And just lots of hard work for the outside and the inside. The women would have also been preserving food for the winter months when they couldn't have access to that garden. Mm-hmm. And people generally stayed in the area. Most of them stayed on that farm or built a farm nearby, took up residence nearby. We didn't have a lot of people running off to the big cities in those days.
Okay. And so when you were speaking with the cowboy, you kind of mentioned Nanny's story and the story of her daughters, and that they were a little different in terms of what women were like back then, because they all did go to school.
That's true. They did. They all went to college, actually, not just regular school, but they had advanced degrees. Well, 2 of them did. 1 didn't make it, but 2 of them did have advanced degrees, which was quite unusual. Even there were many colleges in our United States that didn't even admit women until the 1960s, if you can believe that. But a lot of the prestigious colleges back east didn't admit women. And so for her girls to be educated was quite unusual.
That's amazing.
A truly remarkable woman.
They sound like it, and it's kind of cool to kind of hear their story, just as we know a lot of our students have packed up and gone off to college, whether that be virtual these days or whether it's in person. So thank you so much, Linda. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Linda had some great insight into the lives of early settlers in the area. Now let's check back in with Cowboy Chris and his search for Lebanon.
Howdy, welcome to Gaby's Blacksmith Shop. Can I help you?
Well, I don't know if you can. My friend and I are a little lost, like in the wrong century. I'm from Lebanon, and my friend and I were chatting when I got hit in the back of the head by this armadillo named Wilson. And then we woke up in some place called Frisco. I've never been to Frisco, so I'm trying to find my way back to Lebanon. Wait a minute. I don't remember a Gaby's Blacksmith Shop in Lebanon.
Well, back then, it would have been in a little town very much like Lebanon, in the area called Erudia, and the shop belonged to a man named A.J. Gunster.
Oh, I remember. That wasn't far away from Lebanon. You know, that's pretty amazing. Tell me more. What happens in the blacksmith shop anyway? I always wondered about that.
So back in your time in Collin County, there were probably about 35 or 40 blacksmith shops scattered out all over the county. Gaby's, this shop was started in 1932 here in Frisco, and then 20 years ago, I think they rebuilt it here with some of the original equipment. That's the original anvil from the shop.
Good.
The forge is very much like the forge that was there in 1932. The old drill press there on the wall is from that shop. And this is a recreation based on the memories of some of the local Frisco men. But blacksmithing is basically the same. It has been for almost 4,000 years. You have to have a forge to heat metal. You have to have an anvil that's your working surface. And you have to have an air supply to provide air. And usually there's a vise somewhere in the blacksmith shop that clamps his work. And but as I said, blacksmithing is basically the same as it was 3,000 years ago. We're still doing it today.
I never realized that. Huh. And Gaby's, no wonder I didn't know they were in Lebanon. They weren't even started till I was an old fella. In fact, 1932?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I was dead by then. Oh, I sure do miss our little village. That was a great story, but I don't think it's going to help. I think it's hopeless.
Well, nothing's impossible in Frisco. I mean, you'd be amazed at the things this community has accomplished in the last few years. I've got an idea. Why don't you check in over at the schoolhouse? They've got all kinds of historical material and maps and things they can tell you that might help you get back where you're supposed to be. I bet they'll have the answer.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, my friend. Come on, let's go to the schoolhouse.
Tough break for Cowboy Chris. I really thought he was going to be able to find his way home with help from the blacksmith at Gaby's, but it doesn't look like that was quite so. So joining me now, I've got Karen Mooney, one of the docents from the Frisco Heritage Museum, and we're going to chat a little bit about what other jobs we might see back in Frisco or early Lebanon at that time. So Karen, any other job ideas come to mind?
Well, there were several jobs. Most people were farmers. But as Frisco started to grow and there were more and more things like stores that were being built, we had merchants that would run those stores. We had a barber shop and a beauty parlor, so people would work there. We had a bank, so there were bankers and tellers and people that took care of the money. And of course, there was a post office. You always had to have a post office. So somebody who would get the mail and distribute it to people. And then, of course, in Frisco, the biggest crop was the cotton. So we had to have a cotton gin. So there was a big cotton gin, and many people would work there and help process the cotton. And of course, very important, we had a school. So there were teachers or a teacher, depending on the time. So not a lot different than today. We also had city government then. So there was a mayor. And depending on when the time was, there was a fire station or maybe some volunteer firemen or policemen. So not a lot different other than a lot of farmers that we don't have so much of today.
Nice. That's pretty interesting. So tell me, Karen, if you could pick any job in Old Frisco to do, what would be your choice?
Well, let's see. I think I would probably like to be a farmer's wife. Which a lot of the women were in those days. I think it would be very interesting to run a farm, take care of the animals, grow the crops, and see how families interacted in those times.
Sounds like a cool position.
Yeah.
I think since you mentioned it, I'd want to be a volunteer firefighter because Lord knows I probably couldn't be a firefighter today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karen. We're going to jump back into our story and see how Cowboy Chris is faring. I think he's actually headed to the schoolhouse next.
Okay, good luck.
Hello? Anybody here?
Young man, use your indoor voice. This is a schoolhouse.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I thought you were one of them docents, but you look like a good old-fashioned teacher, at least ones I remember.
Well, yes, I am a docent, but that's no reason for all this commotion. Now, how can I help you?
I'm sorry, ma'am. My friend and I are lost, and I thought maybe you could help us. We're from Lebanon, and we're trying to find our way home, at least our time.
Lebanon? Yes, you are far from home. But this school should remind you of one that you're very familiar with.
Yes, ma'am, it is. Ma'am, I have a question. What with you being a teacher and everything, what is Frisco?
It's pronounced Frisco, and it's one of the fastest growing cities in America. It was named for the St. Louis-San Francisco Railroad that was built here in 1902, just 3 miles west of Lebanon. The railroad engineers reasoned that when the rain fell down the ridge, they could collect it here at a lower spot and even have a lake, plenty of water to fill up their steam engines. So the people in Lebanon thought, well, if the train won't come to us, we'll go to the train. So they put logs under their houses, tied ropes to the logs, and had steam engines and mules pull the ropes and roll the logs and just moved their businesses and houses here to be near the train. Everybody loved that train. They were no longer isolated on the prairie. They were connected to the world. And we even had wonderful schools starting in 1902, some of the finest in the country. Today we have 43 elementary schools, 17 middle schools, 11 high schools, 3 special schools, and we're building more every year. We have 60,000 students now.
Wow. That's a lot of schoolhouses and brain power. Ma'am, do you think one of them FISD students could help us get home?
Well, I don't know. But whenever the residents of Frisco have a problem, we go to our city council or the mayor for help.
The mayor? Yes, ma'am, that's a good idea. Where would we find him?
Well, you're in luck. Just follow that path behind you to the museum and he'll be there.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. That's what we'll do. Come on, let's go get the mayor.
We just saw Cowboy Chris getting schooled by Catherine Fowler, one of our amazing docents at the Frisco Heritage Museum. Catherine is joining us now to tell us more about education in Frisco about 100 years ago. You'll recognize her from the schoolhouse in our story. And when the cowboy happened upon you, he was making a little bit of a ruckus and you got to ring the bell on him.
He was way too rowdy for inside of a one-room school.
Of course he was. And so you put him right in line. So I'll ask you pretty much the same thing I asked Linda. What could students expect to be doing in the schoolhouse back in early Frisco?
Well, they would come in a girls' line and a boys' line. And the younger students would sit up front in the classroom. The older students would sit in the larger desk near the back of the classroom. They would, first thing they would do would be hang up their hats and coats and gloves on pegs at the back of the room. And they brought their lunch to school in any kind of bucket they could find, a tin syrup bucket or a lard bucket. And so they would hang their lunch up back there. And then they would be seated and have opening exercises. They would sing songs, read poetry, read aloud from the Bible, and that was the way they started their day. Then they would study very many of the things we do today: arithmetic, geography, grammar, history, science, health, and handwriting was very, very important. They had to dip their pens into a bottle of ink. Each desk has a hole where a bottle of ink sits in the inkwell. And students today often mistake that for a water bottle holder, but of course, no plastic bottles back then. They would think that was pretty silly to pay money for water in a bottle when it falls free from the sky, So that hole in the desk is an inkwell, and the students would practice their handwriting. They also had to memorize their lessons. They didn't have all the resources that we have. So they had to use this, and they had to memorize their lessons. When the teacher was ready to hear their lesson, to be sure they had it memorized, they were seated on a recitation bench. And Dr. Darrell Trent has made a facsimile of those in our one-room schoolhouse, the benches that they would sit on. Then they had to come and stand on the platform and recite their lesson out loud in front of the whole class. Well, the younger students are sitting up front in the smaller desk, and they can hear this every day. Every day they can hear the students reciting out loud, so they're absorbing a lot. And by the way, they didn't have kindergarten. They didn't start as early as we do today. Then the last day of school was pretty exciting because they had an exhibition, and the whole town would ride their horse and buggy to school for the exhibition. The students were going to exhibit what they had learned that year. So each student would get up on the platform and say their piece that they had memorized. It might be a long poem. It might be a famous speech by Lincoln or Washington's farewell address or something. Then people on the board of trustees or people from the town could ask them very hard questions about arithmetic, geography, science, grammar, and so forth. They had to answer out loud in front of the whole town. They were trying to see if they had learned enough to be promoted to the next grade. And so it was like taking your STAR test in front of the whole world that our students take today. And so that's how they did it back then.
That sounds incredibly nerve-wracking. In front of the whole town?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. So tell me, you mentioned inkwells and pens, and I'm a bit of a collector. I have so many that I probably shouldn't even say. But I have fountain pens. Is that the type of pen that you're talking about that they use?
They would use, it usually had a wooden handle and then a metal nib that you would place into that, different sizes that you would then dip into the ink. And then later they got fountain pens that have a bladder and a lever where you can fill the pen that way. But this is certainly after the time of quills and feathers. They did have pens with metal points on them.
Wow. So what other type of instruments did they use back then that we don't see around in the classroom today?
Well, students often ask if they had, what kind of book bags they had. Well,
Yeah.
They didn't have backpacks. They would carry their books with an old rope tied around them or an old belt or something like that and just carry that over their shoulder and tie their books up that way. That would be another thing that they would use.
Oh, how interesting. So no big shopping trip to the Home Depot or anything like that to get your super swanky backpack?
No, and no fancy playground either. They played Mumbledy Peg and they played Annie Over, where you throw the ball over the roof of the school, and they played, trying to think of some other games they played, tag, hide and seek, a lot of baseball.
Yeah, some of the classics.
Yes, but no fancy playground equipment at all.
Wow. Well, it still sounds like they learned a lot. Of course, they had to because they were going to be put on display, but they still had such a full day as students. That's amazing.
But they thought it was a privilege to go to school. You'd a whole lot rather be in school studying than out working in those hot fields any day. So it was a great privilege to go to school and get your education.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Catherine. We appreciate it. Awesome. Well, we're going to get back to the story and see what's next for Cowboy Chris.
Howdy there.
Well, howdy.
You must be the mayor of Frisco. Well, I've been looking for you. My name is Chris, and my friend and I are lost, and we thought maybe you could help us find our way home.
Well, nice to meet you, Chris. Yes, my name is Jeff Chaney. I'm the mayor of Frisco, and so you're lost looking to get home.
Yes, sir.
Where is that? Can you show me here on the map?
Yeah. Wow. Is all of that Frisco? I'm from Lebanon. From what the school teacher told me, it was here before all of this was built. That's crazy, isn't it?
She's right. You know, today is Shawnee Trail Cowboy Day here in Frisco, and it's been known for some magical things to happen. Maybe if I read today's proclamation, that will help get you home. And it reads, whereas every year on the last Saturday in September, the Heritage Association of Frisco hosts Shawnee Trail Cowboy Day at the Frisco Heritage Center, a fun, family-friendly event that celebrates a time in our community's history when the old Shawnee Trail, later become Preston Trail, was a major route for cattle drives and pioneers traveling through the area. And whereas at this annual event, residents experience how things were done in the old days, with costumes, a quilt show, blacksmith shop demos, whittling, leatherwork, butter churning, spinning, corn grinding, and a steer roping station. And whereas with Old West gunfights, armadillo races, music, and arts and crafts, there is no shortage of excitement for all ages. And whereas it is now appropriate for the City of Frisco to recognize the efforts of the Heritage Association, along with their corporate sponsors, and the countless hours of hard work by their volunteers in orchestrating a spectacular community event, and thank them for their continued dedication to preserving and presenting North Texas history. Now therefore I, Jeff Chaney, Mayor of the City of Frisco, Texas, do hereby proclaim September 26th, 2020 as Shawnee Trail Cowboy Day.
Yeah. Thanks for trying there, Mayor. Come on.
Oh, Chris, don't forget your armadillo.
I don't see any of them docents, do you? We're home! Yeah! We made it! Wow! That was the craziest dream I've ever had. Well, I'll be darned. Wilson. Well, nobody's going to believe what we've got to tell them about all the great things coming our way. No, wait. Maybe that should be our little secret, just between you and me, okay? All right, deal. Tell you what, last one to the store buys the strawberry pop. Come on.
So it looks like we were able to get Chris home. Thankfully, he's back in Lebanon. So Donna, why don't you give us a deeper history of the Heritage Association of Frisco?
Well, the Heritage Association of Frisco was founded in 1999. There were some residents who were having lunch at La Hacienda, and they looked across the street of Preston Road, which used to be Shawnee Trail, and they saw buildings being destroyed or demolished. And that is part of progress, but they said, we need to preserve some of our history. And Sharon Weinberg, Linda Sutton, and Dr. Pink and Bob Warren, who were all very instrumental in putting this together, kind of got a committee and reached out to people in the community to try and make the Heritage Association of Frisco a reality. And so we celebrated, in 2019, we celebrated our 20th anniversary. And in the process, 10 years ago, in 2009, again, with the help of the Heritage Association and the City of Frisco and many, many people, the museum became a reality. And the museum is something that it's a hidden jewel of Frisco. It tells all about North Texas history. During the normal times of the year, when we're not in a pandemic, there are tours done there with all the fourth graders from Frisco ISD, and then various other schools come and do that. And they see what life was like back in the day, about the train and how to pick cotton and how to be a rancher. And we've had some really, really wonderful exhibits here. And at the present time, the Heritage Museum has the Vaqueros. It's a compilation of 46 black and white photographs taken by Bill Whitliff, and it celebrates the vaquero, who was the original cowboy. And that was, the museum has gotten that through Humanities Texas, and it's here until October 10th, particularly to coincide with Shawnee Trail Cowboy Day. So we hope that you come and take advantage of that. Now, during the regular course of the year, the Heritage Association normally has at least 3 Saturday morning lectures where we have people come in and talk about various parts of history in North Texas and Frisco and in North Texas. And there's usually a nice little light breakfast as a complimentary breakfast before the program begins. The third Sunday of the month, we have a program called, very aptly, Third Sunday, and it's activities and things for family and friends. Sometimes we have some animals, petting zoo. We always have arts and crafts. Sometimes there's music in the chapel, either singing or musical performances. The blacksmiths do demonstrations, and they're especially wonderful. The young children love to see what's going on, and they usually make them a little memento or something to take home. So Third Sunday has been very popular, and many people are wondering what's going to happen this year. We normally, in November, Third Sunday, the mayor comes and pardons the turkey. So he lives another year. He doesn't have to be on the holiday Thanksgiving table. So we're going to see if we can do something, if not in person, definitely virtual. And then in December, we normally celebrate Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Claus. So again, these are things we're thinking about. We don't know what's going to happen. But once we're back and we have, I hate to use the term the new normal, but I've been hearing that a lot lately. So I know between pivot and virtual, I'm getting tired of these expressions. But in an abundance of caution, we decided that this was what we had to do. And we're so grateful that you came to join us. And we will be very careful in planning what we do in the future. But we hope to see you take advantage of the tours, especially on third Sunday. The museum is open and all the houses are open with docents. And right now, I know that the museum is planning some Saturday morning tours, walking tours through the different buildings. And in October, they have classes at Gaby's Blacksmith Shop. They have some for adults and some for children. So please check the website for the Heritage Museum for those activities. And please check our website to see what we're doing. And thank you so much again for visiting with us. I hope you enjoyed it. We would love to have some new members. If you check our website, find out more about us. There's a donation button if you feel like you'd like to donate. We're always open to that, and we would put your money to good use. And also there's membership information. So please consider joining us. Again, we're very grateful for your attendance. We hope you enjoyed it. And someday you might see an armadillo named Wilson. Who knows?
That would be something. Thank you so much for joining me, Donna. We want to leave you with some of the more amusing moments that didn't make the cut. We all need a laugh in 2020. Take care of each other, and we hope to see you in person next year for Shawnee Trail Cowboy Day 2021. We all need a laugh in 2020.
We have some bloopers.
Yeah. I don't know where he got these bloopers from, so I'm very interested to see.
Everything they cooked had to be cooked from scratch.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Margaret, you have to go out and wring the chicken's neck.
I can remember my mother doing that.
I know.
We made chickens and she would wring their neck.
Yeah.
That is not on the menu at McDonald's.
Nothing better than a cold drink on a hot day. Won't you come with me? Come on, I'll show you the way.
Wait, let's just do the football shot.
Won't you come with me? Come on, I'll show you the way. I'm on my way over to the Winstonberry grocery store to pick up some milk from Miss Kosher. Not Kosher.
And the shop belonged to a man named A.J. Gunster.
Oh, I remember. That wasn't far away from Lebanon. And then I just forgot my rest of that life. Going on. Now come on, I'll show you the way. So near yet so far. Come on, I'll show you the way.
We tell people about the history of Frisco and Lebanon.
Oh, it's me.
Yeah, I'm not history, I'm right here.
Ah! Take two. Hey, why don't you come with me? Come on, I'll show you the way. Come on, I'll show you the way. Is that where you... Dang it! Crazy, isn't it?
She's right. Okay, all right.
All right.
Hey, Chris, don't forget your armadillo. Where is that? Can you show me on the map?
Oh, wow. All of that?